Oh, right. Where have I been? I haven't really been active on YouTube in a long time, and you're probably wondering why. Well, it's springtime, and I have a lot of work to do to this house on the outside. I spent all winter doing inside things, like replacing doorknobs and bullshit like that, installing insulation and wiring stuff up. I rewired my garage. I've been busy. And as the weather turns, I've been doing yard work. I had to rake the entire lawn, and it looks pretty good. Well, kinda. Yeah, not too bad. The grass is starting to grow up. I've actually seeded the lawn once or twice in certain spots, and that's beginning to sprout. I've been just doing a lot of yard work. I've been helping Amelia with her gardening. My girlfriend Amelia, she's been very busy with her garden stuff, and we built some garden beds out back, and just doing stuff like that. Being outside, enjoying the nice weather. But right now, and what we're going to talk about mostly in this video, are these windows. So you might be thinking, and most people would do this. They would buy an older home like this one, and then they'd launch sledgehammers through the windows and put in new ones, because single pane windows aren't exactly popular for obvious reasons. But you know something? They're not as bad as they're made out to be. One of the reasons people don't like these windows is that they're not energy efficient, and the manufacturers of new windows will do everything they can to tell you that these windows, you're just throwing money out the window. And you need to buy the latest and greatest triple pane, whatever, vinyl, this and that, whatever, Okay, I get it. They want me to spend my money on their product because it's better than whatever. I get that. As a matter of fact, I even priced out nice new vinyl windows, double hung. I even decided to keep the original appearance of these 50s windows with the horizontal muttons that were so popular back then. And I was looking at around $300 to $350 per window, plus installation materials using my own labor. So I was looking at around $2,000 for new windows. And then I started doing my research. Now, fortunately, I had enough time to research and figure out what is really the best option here. Do I rip these windows out that are 65 years old and put in new fancy windows? Or do I, dare I bother, restore the original windows? So I found some preservation group websites, and I know the preservationists, they don't want you to put anything new in your house. They want you to keep whatever you have and don't change a damn thing, because that's the right thing to do. And I looked into that too. And, I gotta say, keeping these windows intact is probably my best option, both in terms of long-term return on investment and also keeping the character of the home. You might be thinking, a 1950s home, what kind of character could it possibly have? I would say a lot. But one of the issues that I'm finding is that glazing windows, which is what I have to do here, is a skill that I don't have. But that doesn't mean practice can't make perfect, and that you can learn as you go. This is a window that I have completely reglazed, and I'm waiting for the glazing to cure. It takes about 7 to 14 days. And then I'll be able to kind of touch it up with a little piece of sandpaper, put a nice coat of paint, and call it a day. What is glazing a window? What does it entail? Well, what it means is you have to dig out all the putty that seals the window pane to the muntin and prime the window muntin, or prime the wood with a nice oil-based primer, and then you go and put in all new putty using a putty knife and a little bit of skill and a little bit of patience, and you can get a nice 45-degree seam all around like that. It is a lot of work. It isn't easy, and it does take patience. But this is the third window I've done, and this is the first one. I actually put the storm windows back in to give the window some time to cure and keep the weather off of it. And then I'll take it back apart and go back and touch it up, clean the glass, paint it. But this window frame, this is an 11-foot window. This is actually a compound window. You've got your double hung windows on either side, and then you've got your double glazed picture window. Yes, I did say double glazed. Double glazed meaning thermopane, or 2 layers of glass with a inert gas between the two. It did exist in the 50s, and this is one example of it. You can see that the seal has been sucked in a little bit, but it's still holding its seal actually pretty well. How you can tell if the seal is failing is you're going to find a little bit of a moisture buildup on the inside of the glass, or clouding, and no such thing has ever occurred here. Here's an example of a storm window. This one goes over the kitchen window that I polished, and I took the windows out of the frame, cleaned the tracks, lubricated, and polished everything. This is pitted, but that's okay. It's on the inside. No one's ever going to see it. Now here is a window that I've done nothing to. This one is a problem. This one actually is drafty. The seal around the storm window has absolutely failed. The glazing on the window lower sash is just crumbling to nothing. So this is an example of a draft or a breeze trap, and you can see there's a whole section of glazing missing here. And there's a bedroom window with the same issue. This one's not so bad. Somebody actually did repaint that window, or tried to repaint it, and did a terrible job. I think that one might have actually been reglazed. Let's take a look at it. Here's an example of a window that did not have the benefit of a storm window, and you can see the wood is far more weathered than all my others. I'm probably going to take these out and put in slider windows, but more than likely I'll just reglaze them. But again, this is what poor window glazing, it just falls right out. That's what it does when it gets old. Got some patio furniture, some flower boxes. Bought that used. So this window here, let's take a look at it. Now what they did here, now this is the wrong thing to do. This one is going to be more of a pain in the neck to fix, because what they did is they used caulking. It works, sure, but it's not the right way to do it. The right way to do it is to pull the glazing completely out like they did here, and then replace it with new glazing. This window is going to be a bit more challenging. Yeah, see this one, you can see the glazing compound fell out over there, and they just put caulking in like that. And they did the same thing right there. That's just not cool. That's the worst way to do it. And you can see this is what these storm windows look like before they're polished and shined up. But we'll make it right. Here's another one. So this one, they didn't do that hokey homeowner repair. Yeah, that glazing will just fall right out with my putty knife. Alright, it's now nightfall, and I have finished painting this window frame. Let's take a look how that came out. Look at that. Beautiful. I gotta paint the inside trim as well. But anyway, this is about 2 coats of paint on there. Now it's gonna take, like I said earlier, look at how easy that window. Oh my! Look at that. It's just finger touch. Top sash, not so. Look at how see how the top sash sags to one side like that? That's because I believe one spring is stronger than the other. They're not broken, but I mean, it's definitely doing its job of providing lift assistance to the window. But anyway, let's lock it down. What is my secret to making these windows work so nicely? Well, fortunately. Now this is one of the side benefits to having a home that wasn't really well maintained. there aren't 11 billion coats of paint on these windows. There's probably 2. And that's it. I see 1 original coat, maybe 2, 3 coats maybe of different layers or 3 layers of paint. Over the course of 65 years, it hasn't built up like a massive, thick coat of paint on these windows. So they still slide nicely in their frames or in their tracks. But this is my secret, and this is no secret. This shit works. This is WD-40 water-resistant silicone spray, and I use this on all of my windows, and they all work now. When I bought the house, they were all sticking and jamming and really hard to move. This one was the first one I did, and this is I almost detached or busted my finger off in this window because it was sticking a little bit, and then it let loose. And I had my finger right here. I was lifting the window. I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but I was lifting the window and I had my finger right here, and like a guillotine, it hit this, I almost said mullion, that M word that I can't think of. I hit this with my finger and it went BAM! But lift the sash like this, and you'll be good to go. Anyway, so take a look at this windowsill again. That's how nasty they all looked like that. They were just gross. So water-resistant silicone, what I did is I sprayed it into the tracks, and I sucked the hose, or the tube, into the spring-loaded section and sprayed liberally so that the springs themselves can slide nicely in their own cavities. And that's how I did it. And I did the same thing to the to the screens and storm windows, and they all slide nicely. I am missing 1 screen in the whole house, and it's this one. I'm actually going to make one. I'm going to see if I can't get a screen made out of bare aluminum frame, and I'm going to solder some metal tabs in position so that it can slide on the tracks. I'll fix that if it kills me. The $1 million question is this, and then we'll get into the materials you're going to need or what I'm using to get this job done. Why would you spend time glazing old windows? Well, I mentioned it earlier. Sometimes you have a home that has a certain architectural aesthetic or character, and replacing the original windows would be detrimental to the house's appearance, specifically old Victorian homes. And what you can do in those cases, if you don't want unsightly storm windows on the exterior of the home, or modern storm windows like these aluminum ones. By the way, these storm windows aren't very different from what they're producing today. They're actually quite modern for their time, and they work so well. But anyway, if you have an older home and you want to keep the home's aesthetic for architectural or preservation purposes, repairing the windows is often better than replacing them. In this case, this is a mid-50s ranch. These windows, they can be reproduced with modern materials in a pocket window type, meaning you just pop out the sashes and the jam stops and everything, and they just slide right in. I priced out all new windows and about $2,000 plus installation materials if I do it myself. $2,000 isn't really a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, but I want to spend money where I'm going to get a return on my investment. And I don't feel that is going to really pay off. And here's why. The R value of a single pane window without a storm window at all is about 1. R value is the resistance to thermal transfer, and R values are usually in whole numbers, R1, R2, R3. There are, I think, R1.5 is also a thing. But anyway, for example, my insulation in the attic, I installed R30, which is a heat resistance value, or factor of 30, whatever that means in scientific terms. The R value of brand new, perfectly installed thermal pane windows is 2. An R value of 2. And our value of a single pane window with a storm window installed is about 2. Yeah. So I just don't see it as being necessary. If the windows were in poor condition, if they were rotting out, sashes falling apart, glass falling out of them, we'd be having a very different conversation. I'd be telling you how I replaced my windows rather than repaired them. But the cost of reglazing these windows, taking the time to clean, polish, and, if necessary, reseal the glass on the storm windows, the cost is so minimal, it's almost free. But not really. See, it takes time, energy, and effort to get jobs like this done, and it takes skill. And if you don't have that skill, you can always gain that skill by practicing and trying and learning and reading. It's almost like rewiring an entire house. Actually, no, that's a bad example. If you don't know what you're doing, don't try to rewire your house because you can burn the place down, and insurance companies don't really like that. In my case, I actually knew a few things about wiring, and I got the job done. And everything works, and everyone's happy. So, what am I using for tools? Well, I'll show you. I bought this tool. This is this is used for applying caulking and just getting it to look right. I haven't used this yet, but we'll see how that goes. This is a set of painter's blades or shields, and I will be using these when I paint the sashes and the not the mullions. What the hell is the word? Muntins. When I paint the muntins, I'm going to use this to ensure that I have a nice bead of paint between the glazing and the glass. I haven't used those yet. I had to use this chisel to chisel out some of the window frame. I didn't get this on video, but it looks like over time the front of the house has settled, and the end result is there's a little bit of pressure being put down onto the windowsills via the trim, and it's hard to explain without showing you, but so the end result is there was the storm windows were kind of under pressure, and I had to, when I pulled them out, they were hard to remove, so I had to chisel out some of the wood on the windowsill in certain areas Anyway, some stuff I'm using. So I had some pretty badly weathered, the front window sills, the exterior facing portions were badly weathered. So what did I do with those? I scraped off any loose paint and wood, and I used this stuff here. This is called Minwax Wood Hardener, and you paint this on with a brush. This is the brush I used. See, it's very, very stiff. So this brush, I just liberally apply it to the wood, let it soak in, then apply it again, let it soak in, apply it again, and so this stuff here is essentially, smell that. It smells really, really, really strong of acetone, because that's what it is. It's acetone. It's actually, it's plastic. It could be ABS plastic. I'm not entirely sure which variety of plastic they used. But it is basically plastic dissolved in acetone. If you spill acetone onto something plastic like a computer keyboard, it'll begin to melt. And they realize that, gee, if we just go ahead and throw plastic in acetone and let it melt and make it, liquid, you could sell this shit and make a ton of money. So what happens is, as it soaks into the wood, the plastic is soaking into the wood, and then the acetone evaporates out, leaving behind wood that is essentially encapsulated in plastic. It's a beautiful thing. In one particular spot on the big 11-foot window in the front, I had some gouging, some pretty nasty dry rot, but it wasn't that bad. So I use the Minwax wood hardener, and Minwax makes a version of this, and so does Varathane, depending on which store you go to, the orange team or the blue team. I got this at the orange team. I won't say the name, but you'll figure it out. Varathane wood filler, and what this is it's kind of basically Bondo. It's basically Bondo, and it's weatherproof. It has it's a 2-part epoxy, and you just use the cream hardener and mix it together and throw it on there with a putty knife and smoothing it out, and you've got nice hard wood to paint, or a material to paint. I painted the door sills, the window sills. First, I actually used Zinsser cover stain primer for the muttons and the areas that are being glazed, because glazing is based on it's made from linseed oil, so you want to use oil-based products that are directly contacting it. But I'm top coating everything with a Sherwin-Williams Everlast semi-gloss white. It's a pretty thick, pretty good quality paint. It wasn't cheap, so it better be good. Now, I haven't used this yet. I'm probably not going to use it, but I might actually return it. I don't think I can. I think I opened it for some reason. Oh, shit. Can't return that. Oops. I'll use it for something. This is the glazing compound that I've used, and I have found that it is a very workable product. You basically just open the lid, and there we go. Yeah, this is pretty heavily worked. You grab a gob of it, and you just work it in your hands. Your hands are going to get sticky as hell, and it's going to be messy. It's like working with Play-Doh, only it contains asbestos. Wait, what? Yes. According to the materials list, it contains asbestos, which is really bizarre. It says workable above 40 degrees Fahrenheit. I suggest doing it above 50 or 60 degrees or more, because it can get hard to work when it's really cold or really hot. So you don't want to be in the extremes. But if you look at the ingredient list, it literally says asbestos, which is interesting. I guess they still use that. Don't use it on aluminum, it says. No warning sign saying it contains asbestos. But, yeah. Anyway, it is important that you actually use a primer with this stuff, and we're going to find out how true that is, because what I mean is you want to prime the wood before you apply it, especially when you're working with older windows, because the wood is dry. The prevailing theory is that it actually absorbs and sucks the oil out of the material, causing it to fail prematurely. So here's the thing. If my big 11-foot window begins to fail, or the sashes on either side begin to crack and fall apart, the glazing, within like 5 years, I'll know how accurate that statement is, because I actually primed the kitchen window, but I didn't do the others. That was just an accident. But we'll see what happens, and so that's what I'm doing. So yes, why spend time, energy, and money in fixing these old windows? Well, the other thing is, okay, obviously aesthetics and historical preservation matter to some people. I happen to be one of those people. I would prefer to have the original windows if they're workable, if they're good, if they're usable. The other thing is, they will last infinitely longer than anything made of vinyl. So here's the thing. Vinyl windows are wonderful. They're great products. Then there's all different, actually there's a few different types of windows that you can buy today. You can buy vinyl windows, which are made entirely of vinyl. You can buy vinyl-clad wooden windows, which are a much nicer looking product. You can buy, there's a couple of different, variations of the materials that you can still get. You can still buy all wood windows. But here's the thing. These windows are made entirely from old growth lumber. Old growth meaning the trees were allowed to grow much longer. So the wood is older, it's denser, there's less resin and there's less moisture in the wood. It's a very, very good quality wood that you can't get anymore. This whole house is built from old growth lumber. Old growth lumber has some very interesting properties that make it resistant to rot naturally without the use of any chemicals. And I believe it, and I'm not an expert by any means, and I could be talking out of the wazoo here, but thing is, pressure treated lumber, I believe, was created as kind of a way to replace the properties that were lost in the old growth lumber, especially for high moisture content areas. But that's a separate topic and altogether. It has nothing to do with windows, because I don't think windows were ever made from pressure treated lumber anyway. But vinyl windows that are made today tend to, over time, as vinyl is vinyl, it does what it does, especially on lower quality windows, less expensive ones. Vinyl can shrink and warp and crack and dry out. It becomes brittle. And I've seen this with my own eyes. I had a condo, had it for 11 years. And when I bought it, it was about 21 years old, 20 years old. And even then, my crank-out thermopane Anderson windows were already beginning to deteriorate pretty badly. They were getting chalky on the outside. The exterior trim was cracking. The glass, the insulated glass units were still intact. There were no leaks, no moisture between the glass. But they were cold, and they were small windows. I mean, they weren't big windows. They were pretty small, and they were very cold in the winter time. And, I didn't get any breeze through them, but they were just, 20-year-old windows. So that's when 20 years, I believe, is when vinyl windows begin to, fall apart. They begin to lose their suppleness, their shape. 20 years is about the lifespan of a vinyl window. The wooden clad, vinyl, aluminum clad, whatever the hell they are, all multi-material windows, the expensive luxury windows, the prevailing thing that I've read on those is that the wood begins to rot away because it's not as rot resistant as some of these older windows were. So these are 65 years old and they still work. They still seal up nicely, or they can be made to seal up nicely. They don't, as a matter of course. It takes repair. It takes, I'm having to fix them. But here's the thing. They're fixable. They're repairable. A vinyl window, not so much. A vinyl window you replace. A wooden window like this, you can fix it. And you can get another 65 years out of them. My parents' house, when they bought it about 15 years ago, the windows were over 150 years old in the whole house. They were in pretty bad shape, though, but they were 150 years old. The sash cords are all broken. Those windows didn't have spring balanced sashes. They were weight balanced, and they would use a rope that on either side of the window that connected to the sash, and you lift the sash up, the rope goes down, and the weight draws it down. And that's how they would balance the sashes, and they would stay open. But not that house. No, they were all broken. But even 150 years old, they could have still been repaired using some modern materials like new weight cords, new seals, new glazing, and they could have gone another. These windows they're for life. Vinyl windows are for now. Just saying. So when I get people on the comments box saying, you need to replace your windows, I'm going to refer you to that statement. Vinyl windows are for now. Wooden windows are forever. And you know what? If I bought a new home and it had vinyl windows, I'd be fine with that. Really. I would be just fine with that. Maintenance free doesn't always mean better though. Look at vinyl siding, for example. This house is covered in it. Vinyl siding is, I hate it. I hate vinyl siding because it's maintenance free, yay, but it has a lifespan of about 30 years or less. And then you've got to tear it off and replace it because vinyl's vinyl. It deteriorates. It cracks with weather exposure. It doesn't crack. I mean, it cracks, but it dries out first, and then it becomes brittle, and it can crack. And that happens with weather exposure. That's why PVC pipes are pretty much good forever, because they're not usually in direct sunlight. But vinyl and sunlight don't mix. And there's no maintenance you can do to make it last longer. You just have to hope that the formula that they made at the factory is perfect, and it has all the benefits of the proper formula that they had spent millions of dollars engineering. But sometimes the factories screw up and they put a little bit of too much this or a little bit less of that than it needs, and it doesn't last as long as it's supposed to. That's the beauty of modern materials. But am I making this video to justify to myself that I need to keep these windows installed and maintain them and make them last longer? Or am I doing it so that my viewers understand why that is a legitimate option if you own a home and you want to make it weather tight as it was when it was built, and keep the home running for a lot longer and save money at the same time. Anyway, either way, whichever camp you fall into, I hope this video helps. And yes, even I can reglaze a window. Now, you will break windows doing this, especially if you're a novice like myself. I've broken 3 window panes out of 12. Out of 12 window panes that I've glazed, I have broken 3. The first 2, one of them I broke in this window right here. My putty knife slipped and cracked the glass just at the right point. It wasn't a big catastrophic shattered glass experience. It was just a little crack. So I went over to my local hardware store, and for $4 I had a piece of glass cut to size, installed it with new points, bada bing, bada boom. The second one I broke was in this window here. And I had an experience. So what I'm doing is I'm using a rubber tipped mallet, and which isn't the right way to do it, but it's fast and it gets the job done. I'm using it and a chisel to tap, or a sharp and stiff putty knife, and I'm just tapping at the glazing with the corner of the putty knife, and it falls off the window frame, and it works fantastic. But I tapped a little bit too hard, and the knife went right into the glass, cracking it just in the same fashion. These were a little bit more money because you have to buy a bigger sheet of glass. I think this window costs, these are $7 a piece to break if I have to replace them. $7 ain't a lot of money, whatever. So I bought 2. I bought 2 pieces of glass, cut them to size. I broke a 3rd piece of glass installing it. I was putting in the glazing points, the little metal clips that hold the glass in. They stick right into the wood, and then you glaze over them. And what happened was I was tapping them in very gently, and I don't know what came over me, but my little putty knife slipped off of the glazing point into the glass, and the rest is history. That's my life, guys. I am a klutz. But I've learned a lot, and I think I can finish the whole house without breaking another piece. Who am I kidding? No, I will be breaking more. But that's life, and that's what you gotta do when you own a home. Or I can just take that quote that's hanging on that pegboard over there, and or that bulletin board, and go to Lowe's and order my windows and put them in. And no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to fix these because they were included in the purchase price of the home, and if I don't have to spend more money, then that makes me a happy Mr. Bishop. So, all right, thank you for watching. And in my next video, I'm going to show you how to tune up a 65-year-old oil furnace. I'm serious. We're doing this.